Okay, so we have hit episode 7 of His Dark Materials, Fight to the Death. It is the second last episode of the first season of this show. I'm going to break down my review into two parts. First, we'll cover Lyra's side of the story, and then we'll finish off with Will's. So we actually start off back at Gobbler headquarters here, and we get this really chilling shot from behind of Miss Coulter, and she's looking at her machine that's in ruin now. And we get this saliva-filled scream from Ruth Wilson here, which is great. And then we kind of get this odd scene where Miss Coulter's talking to this sister that had her demon removed, and she's saying she basically wants to serve Miss Coulter still, and they're safer there. And Miss Coulter just chokes her and leaves her out in the cold, just kind of reaffirming what we already knew, that Miss Coulter is a cold person, and chokes her because she realizes she has no use for her if she doesn't even know who Lyra is. But the whole little subplot here of this sister character really didn't go anywhere. To have this as the payoff was just like, okay, great. And now we're back from the cliffhanger from last episode where Lyra fell from this balloon in the sky, and now she's here on the ground in the snow, and she's not dead, which is a little nuts, but she's also not injured at all. She grabs her waist for like a second, but she's totally good after that, which is so unbelievable, but whatever, we'll let it pass. And then this armored bear appears, and she thinks for a second it's Yurik, but it's not. But there's this really odd editing going on in this show, and it continues here where there's this quick jump cut to Lord Boreal just jumping worlds again. Did we really need to see that? And it just goes back now to Lyra with this bear, and you just wonder, why didn't she run away from the bear initially? And where was the conversation to be had here that's kind of missing? It feels like there's just a scene missing. It's just all of a sudden she's with this bear and going along with him. I didn't understand why they even cut away from the scene. And then we see she's thrown in this jail cell. And the set design looks great throughout this whole episode. I just love the look of Yofer's kingdom here. And in this jail cell, Lyra looks at the lithometer. She's told that Yurik is on his way to save her. But while she's in this jail cell, we meet the classic crazy prisoner character in Jotham Santium the Scholar. And he explains to her that Azrael is where she is now, and informs her about him being in his own kind of lab, but he's still prisoner. And he mentions to her that Yurik will be killed on the way here because there's 200 bears that guard this place. He has no shot. And it's a cool cut here seeing Yurik just running in the snow. It's really beautiful, and the CGI with the bears has just been awesome. But this prisoner tells Lyra that King Yofer gave him the job to turn him into a human, and he basically told Yofer it's not possible. But Lyra connects the dots here and kind of finds his weakness through this, knowing that, wait a minute, Yofer really wants some kind of human connection in a sense. And just, I love the set the most here, seeing Yofer's little like palace. The way it was lit, it kind of just reminded you of the scene from Sorcerer's Stone in Harry Potter when he first encounters Professor Quirrell at the end of the movie. And I love they had a little nice touch with the blood puddles on the ground that she's stepping through. And what this sets up in this episode is Lyra becoming Lyra Silvertongue, which they did a really good job here because it was proven by her being able to trick a bear, which is supposed to be this impossible task. And they did a really good job, like they did in the book, of convincing us that Lyra would be able to trick Yofer, this king, because they kept showing him push back and try to catch her in her lie anyway. But it brilliantly showed that the lithometer was her way to prove herself and to tell him that she knew he killed his father. So it was just really convincing, and it also gave weight to the lithometer and why it's so important on Lyra's journey, because this wouldn't have been done without it. It shows that advantage it can give someone, even to be able to trick a bear. But that doesn't take away from how much of a quick thinker and trickster Lyra is to pull off this great idea to set up this battle between Yofer and Yurik, and saying that if he beats Yurik, she becomes his demon, knowing that this would be something he would want, a connection to a human. So we see Yurik now shows up. He gets through there away from the bears because Yofer sets up that he'll be able to go through. So in the process, Lyra saved Yurik's life. And Lyra informs Yurik what she did. She feels terrible about it, but he's like, no, you did the right thing. I need to fight Yofer and claim my throne again. So we get this big awaited battle here between the two bears. It looks really good. Again, all the CGI looks great with these bears. Thank God they put the marks on Yofer's face so we can tell who was who in this fight. And they did a really good job of showing you from the books how there's a moment where it looks like Yurik is gonna die, and it scared me here for a minute. So the emotion of the battle was shown really well. The stakes of it, almost losing a fan favorite. But I do wish his rebound kill when he gets up was a little more gruesome. It's so gruesome in the books. And again, that's a young adult book. So it's disappointing that BBC and HBO's presentation of this would be toned down, where it's just kind of off camera. They could have shown a little more. So we see though that Yurik gives Lyra her name, Lyra Silvertongue. It was cool to finally hear that. And he tells all the bears, there's going to be no more king now. There's going to be no more death. He's basically freeing them and liberating. And it's a new beginning. So now Yorick brings Lyra to little Roger, who's been sitting in this cave waiting. And he just informs Lyra that him and Yorick fell out of this balloon, and that when they fell out, Lee was still airborne. I just wish we again could have seen a scene like this and what exactly happened, because where we left off, they were all in the balloon. So this show has consistently had parts that just seem missing that we're just not seeing on screen. But the alethiometer tells him that Lee crashed his balloon, but he's safe. We get this cute little moment, this big hug with Lyra and Roger, which was just a much better reunion in a sense than in last episode. You felt it here. And she knows she wants to give this alethiometer now to Azrael. So we actually jump to the Magisterium, and they get wind of Yofer dying real quick. I do hope that's explained how they get that information so fast. We'll see, but it wasn't here, so that was kind of frustrating. And Miss Coulter is there and sees Father McVale, and he calls her out about all her failures, how her experiment failed, and how her protection of Azrael failed, having Yofer there, and that he's dead. So she's blowing it all course. But remember, Miss Coulter is playing both sides here, because she's in a sense giving Azrael some freedom with his experimenting and protecting him from death, because when Father McVale says he wants Azrael dead, she doesn't say yes back to that, and she's clearly conflicted. And she, like Lyra, is a Silvertongue in a sense. It's in their blood. She convinces McVale and talks her way through her coming with the Magisterium, even though she's messed up royally for them. She's calling him out, saying that he's afraid of Azrael and his knowledge of dust, and that she knows his next move. She can read him, and that she knows about dust, so she should be there. So just, again, masterful acting by Ruth Wilson. She's really been the star of the show for me. But it does feel like we're getting this repetitive beat of her walking down a straight line and looking evil with a smirk. They even just set one up here where all the guys in the Magisterium have their guns ready to go, and she's just perfect line walking down them. I kind of think they're overdoing that now, but that's incredible nitpicking on my part. All right, so now we see Lee Scoresby, and then before we have a moment to breathe with his character, here comes Peter Pan again, aka Serafina, to assist and give us more info dumping. It is apparent now that Serafina in this season literally is a plot device to just give information to audience and the characters in the show, which is disappointing. And she's just repeating the same drivel from last episode, that he's important to Lyra, and she tells him that Yorick's won his battle and Lyra's safe. So it's just feeling like a cheat code at this point with Serafina, and it's frustrating. And she couldn't be more bland of an adaptation. I've said this in my other reviews, and it's just not getting better. And this whole scene with Lee was just kind of there to show we all need to band together and help Lyra. So it's just like pretty simple and just not great. However, I'm, again, really enjoying Lin-Manuel Miranda's performance of Lee here, and he brings a lot of charm, even just in a simple scene like this, and joy to the show where it can get bland at points. You kind of see the contrast of the two characters in that sense. And this is where my complaint goes to, again, where we're choosing where we're spending time in the show. And I still think it's so frustrating they have Will introduced in this season and not till next season, because I feel like the time we're spending with Will, again, it's so jarring going to his story from the type of story we're in, and it takes away from the moment and maybe moments we could be spending showing us what's going on with Lee, what's going on with Serafina, and getting us more into those characters' headspaces. It's making them more thin now. Why are we rushing to show Will when we have all the time next season to do that? But wrapping up Lyra's story here in the episode, Yorick drops her and Roger off at where Azrael's been chilling, and Azrael freaks out upon seeing Lyra. It's good to see James McAvoy again in the show. It's been a while. I love seeing his demon, the snow leopard. She's great too. And McAvoy played this scene great where he's like freaked out Lyra's there, and then he's gushing over seeing Roger just like that. And he's like, I'm very pleased you came. So it's a huge uh-oh moment for the audience, and you feel like you're in Lyra's shoes there, like, wait a minute, what is going on? It's a great cliffhanger to end this episode, something this show is really strong at. So I love how it ended and hooked you for the finale. So let's now jump to Will's scenes in the episode and his storyline. And we got two pointless cutscenes of Lord Boreal in the beginning of this episode, just like I said before, him jumping through worlds, and then him looking at the video of John Perry. It's just, all right, great. They're like 2 seconds. But it gets more significant when we're 20 minutes into the episode and he actually goes in the house and talks to Will's mom. And he's now planting the seeds in her head that John, her husband's still alive, and that he's involved with the disappearance of valuable objects. And he's telling her he knows that John wrote to her every day and that those letters are valuable and can give them clues into what's going on. And he calls her out for getting money from his bank account every month. And what was important about this scene was it clears up why the mother and Will weren't calling the police about these men just watching them, because Will would end up in care of the state basically, and she would get in trouble from hiding evidence from the Magisterium, something like that. And I like this little detail where she's freaked out by the snake popping up, keeping true to how this world doesn't have demons, and that would be something so odd and terrifying just to pop up to someone like Will's mom. And when Boreal's leaving, he just says, "We can get your husband back for you. You have every reason to cooperate with us." But when he goes into the car with the two guys, he's like, "Yeah, just get me those leathers any way you have to." So he's just a pure villain in every sense and is trying to completely play Will's mom to get what he needs. So this caused the mom to freak out even more. Goes to Will at school, but she fills in Will about everything and that she thinks the dad's still alive. And the actor of Will is just playing him note for note. Excellent. He's got such a range of emotions he can show in his face, and it's very believable. And the chemistry between him and the actress of the mom is just through the roof. Excellent pairing there. So props to the casting as well. And when they get back to the house, the place is raided. So Will knows at this point it's time to do the inevitable. He takes his mom to someone else, away from these men, and he does this also to protect her and to protect those letters. And just really felt this moment, even though we haven't had much time with them, where they're hugging and they're saying goodbye, and that Will knows this could be the last time he sees his mom, maybe ever. So Will runs home, grabs the letters, and the men come in the house. But we get this odd thing where he ties the belt around his hand almost like he's boxing, which he does, and he pushes the man over. But this came off pretty cheesy and stupid. I feel like there's just a better way they could have shot this. That wasn't so great. But then we get a nice moment where he actually checks on his mom one last time and just looking at the house, kind of taking in, leaving his mom. And then Will is off. So these are some of my favorite scenes from Will in the show so far. I think this was the most interesting episode of him and his mother. But again, I think this would just been cooler to see at the beginning of season 2. Kind of shocking the audience like it did in the book of like, where are we? What's going on feeling. You're taking out that mystery now. And again, it's just crowded the show right now, and you're taking away from other characters we need to be learning about. So overall, this episode, I think, obviously had a great scene with the two bears fighting, something people were looking forward to. I think the set looked great here. The bears looked awesome. Dafne Keen had another strong episode under her belt as Lyra. And we got a really good cliffhanger with Azrael. I still don't feel emotionally sucked into this show really at all yet, which is disappointing. I can't totally put my finger on why that is, but that is how I feel watching it. But this episode, to me, was an 8.6. I think that's fair. I think it was pretty good and pretty consistent all around, with a lot less laughable scenes to me like last week. It just needs a lot of fixing. If when season 2 comes around, that has to do with pacing, and again, gotta work on some characters like Serafina here and give her a jolt of life, and maybe we can see some other witches at some point that she's talking about. But overall, it's good. It's a good episode to have before finale. Get you excited for the next episode. I'm excited to see what will happen with Azrael and Miss Coulter here. A lot of pieces now falling into place. But yes, totally an 8.6 for me. Let me know what you thought of it down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you loved it. Maybe you hated it. Maybe you just agree with me that I thought it was pretty good. Anything you got and any theories you got. And again, please no spoilers from the books unless we've already seen it in the show. That is not for here. Take that elsewhere. And please make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my reviews of His Dark Materials. And I'm also doing Watchmen at the moment. I'll be doing Servant on Apple TV Plus, and I'll also be doing The Outsider. So you're going to want to see those. And please follow me at Steve Varley1 on Twitter and Instagram for more of me. And I'll see you next time.